Several hours ago, Israel reopened the Rafah border crossing. Humanitarian organizations have long called for this. Israel had forced the crossing's closure when it seized control of it back in May of 2024. On paper, this marks the first major step of the U.S.-backed ceasefire's second phase. On the ground, it may be a different story. The crossing is only reopening on a trial basis, and key details remain unclear. Let's speak to our correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky, to find out more. Hello to you. Noga, how have things gone so far this Sunday?
Well, good Sunday morning, Will. Things are going just very much in baby steps right now. The Israeli government basically sent some bulldozers and some other service vehicles towards the Rafah crossing about an hour ago. There are initial preparations underway to basically make this border crossing functional again after more than 2 years. But I would not expect to see, a very busy border crossing. The Israeli statements all refer to, quote, pedestrian traffic. That means that the very few people allowed to cross through, by Israeli estimates, at most 150 per day, um, are going to have to come on foot. That very much limits what you can carry. There's no talk right now of materiel or of aid coming through on the Israeli side. And I want to emphasize, I keep talking about Israeli statements and what the Israelis have planned, but this is not an Israeli border. This is the border between Egypt, sovereign state that has peace accords with Israel, and Gaza, a territory that for now it is extremely unclear who will rule. That said, we were also informed very late last night that Israel will allow the technocratic new leadership committee that is supposed to take over power in Gaza to administer the place. They will allow them to cross the Rafah crossing and finally enter Gaza via Egypt at some point later today. So if that happens, that will actually be the first concrete step towards possibly eventually changing leadership inside Gaza.
And what happens next after this sort of initial trial basis?
Well, what's supposed to happen next are discussions about Hamas laying down its arms, the Islamist terror group that has ruled Gaza since 2006. And many of us have forgotten it took over power at that point in a very bloody coup d'etat against the Palestinian Authority, the internationally recognized body that was ruling there. So there should be discussions on Hamas, a terror group by definition, laying down its arms. The latest messaging we've heard for Hamas is they say they don't even know where that comes from, that they certainly have not agreed to that. Israel, on the Israeli side, discussions have to be launched towards Israel redeploying its soldiers, leaving Gaza, redeploying to a perimeter on the outside of Gaza or in a buffer zone surrounding Gaza, but not ruling Gaza. Right now, these two possibilities seem to me quite distant, though much of this will depend on the United States. The United States is ruling the roost here, even determining what Israeli army measures or operations can take place. So if the United States does not get distracted and continues to press hard here, we might see some kind of motion towards these very difficult aims. If Hamas lays down its arms and this Palestinian governing committee, what's being called a technocratic committee, is allowed to take power, we may actually see armed Arab forces, pan-Arab forces entering and forcing Hamas to lay down its arms. Right now, it's difficult to imagine, but that could happen.
Yeah, so a lot of uncertainty moving forward, and as you and I both mentioned earlier, maximum foot traffic, about 150 people for the Rafah crossing. Noga, with all this uncertainty, where does this leave the people of Gaza?
The people of Gaza, in a way, to use a popular term in our days, Will, are being gaslit. They're being told that there is a ceasefire because the heavy, heavy warfare did stop in October with the Trump imposed ceasefire plan, but they're still getting bombed and stricken by Israeli firepower every single day. We're being told that there is some sort of hope for them to be able to become reborn as an integral part of a Palestinian nation. And yet there are really currently no concrete plans for that to happen, and there's no implementational force. That's the important thing. Trump's board of peace, the so-called board of peace, was initially conceived as a kind of uh, oversight committee to make sure this Gaza project was advancing well, but it has very rapidly fallen apart. Trump tried to change it into a body that could replace the UN. Unfortunately for his plan, he did this the same week he was trying to take over Greenland. And so the entire Western world withdrew from this body, from the so called Board of Peace, rendering it toothless, basically irrelevant. And so right now, we just don't see the ladder for how to get up and out. And the Gazan people, and I should add some Israeli people too, who are not being offered any ladder by their own government, people who live in the south who've been forced to return to their homes on the Gaza border. The Israeli government is in no way helping them reconstruct their lives or see a possibility for a future. But in Gaza, the situation remains critical and difficult. And for now, I don't see any real ray of hope for Gazans.
Noga, thank you very much. Noga Tarnopolsky reporting from Jerusalem.